is a quick recording to go through your assessment for this module. So this is cross-curricular learning. If we come down, we scroll down to the assessment and feedback. Now everything you need is going to be on this page in relation to the assessment. So you can see here, this is 4,000 words equivalent. We'll get into that now. It's 100% weighting. So if you fail this, unfortunately, you'll have failed the module. You'll have to come and resit. All assessments, you have 3 attempts. You don't want to be coming back in the summer though, so try and obviously pass this. This is the end of the module, so it's May the 1st. So if we come down, this is the assessment brief. So if you click on the assessment brief, so you'll be met with this document. So everything you need in relation to the assessment brief is on here. So it's 4,000 words equivalent. So that's 2 blog posts and multimedia content. So myself and the marking team, we're not going to be counting every single word that you say in a podcast or a video and in written form. So I want you to think about this as almost like a multimodal essay. So obviously in an essay, you support ideas with academic sources. You'll continue to do that, but you also have the option then to also support your ideas with relevant videos, relevant podcasts, relevant content that you've created in the sessions. It's 40%, obviously, pass threshold. So if we'll have a look at the marking criteria in a minute, in terms of passing, a big part of it is engagement and you creating and engaging with the course. So, in terms of a pass threshold, that isn't too bad. So what we're asking you to do is to create an academic blog that you will show your understanding of cross-curricular learning, which we've been exploring on the module. You'll need to do 2 blog entries, and this is all within your Adobe Express. Now I've created a separate video on how to set up your Adobe Express webpage. Have a watch of that, it doesn't take long. So in terms of what you need to do, you need to create your academic blog. You'll clearly signpost blog post 1, and in that blog post you can focus on any AOLE that you want to. So it could be digital competence, could be literacy, could be numeracy, or any of the other AOLE, so the areas of learning and experience. Blog post 2, again, you have the freedom to choose what you want to write about. We encourage you in this module to try and think about what are you actually interested in. I really like that in the seminars people are starting to think about, they might have an interest in digital competence, for example. They might have an interest in, for example, numeracy or one of the languages, literacy, communication. Whatever you want to do, that's absolutely fine. If you do come up with your own blog post, please run it by myself or Dylan. So in the blogs, we want you obviously to draw upon your experience with placement, university, the seminars, the workshops, and you're demonstrating your understanding of cross-curricular learning, which you'll obviously have seen in different ways. It's really important that you integrate multimedia elements, which I keep on going on about in the sessions. Everything that you create in the sessions, we do want to see in your blog. The more that you put in, the more marks obviously you'll have access to. So in terms of the suggested blog titles, you can choose from any of these. Now these have been designed because obviously these relate to our lectures. We know there's loads of literature that's linked to these, loads of videos, loads of multimedia. If you want to go outside of these suggested blog titles, by all means you can, but please run it by us first. So you can choose any of these. You do a blog post 1 and then you choose another one for blog post 2. The assessment criteria here at the snapshot, you can see you get 25% for each of the blog posts. You do get marks for quality of writing and academic tone. So again, think of it almost as like an essay. So you can write in the first person, you can say, you can reflect. You don't have to write in third person. You get 20% for multimedia, and engagement is 20%. So make sure you come into sessions and you're contributing. We've got children coming in. It's really important that in those sessions we see you engage and you are preparing materials that we ask you to do. So you can see this is all broken down in the assessment criteria. I'd print this off so you know when you're writing this, you know exactly what you've got to do. There's a breakdown of the marks. So if you are down this end, obviously you're towards a fail, and then towards the 70 plus is a first. 70 plus is a first, 60 to 69 is a 2-1, 50 to 59 2-2, and then obviously below that. So you've got blog post 2, you've got quality of writing, use of multimedia. So again, in all the sessions, in not just this module, other modules as well, we're showing you different apps that you can use. Please try and incorporate those so you're demonstrating that you can use digital technology within your own practice. You'll get marks for that. So whether it's images, videos, podcasts, links that you find, we definitely want to see, obviously you're doing green screens, stop motion animation, we want to see that in your blog and reflected. It shows your engagement. You don't just get engagement just for showing up to the session. If you're actually in the session but just choosing to talk all the session, that will be reflected in your marks. So that is the assessment brief. I want to show you on here, there's some further guidance. So here are some examples from last year. So you click on these, this is Katie's. So this has been created on Adobe Express. So she's got a really clear, this was a different module. So this is slightly different to what you're doing. Obviously you'll put cross-curricular learning, you'll put your name. You've got a welcome video. So we talked about creating one of those, whether you do it on clips or you do it on green screen. Katie's used some AI images. It's really clear that this is blog post 1. It's really clear that you've got a title. Obviously with all essays, you'd have an introduction where you signpost to the reader what will follow. You've then got the main body. Again, as I mentioned, you can support what you're saying with posters that you create. Maybe it's on Adobe Express, Canva, whatever. You'll upload those. If you create any videos, the easiest way to link videos is to have your own YouTube channel and then you copy the links across. Don't worry, I don't think you're going to go viral. No one else is going to be seeing these blogs, so don't worry too much. I would personally set up your own professional YouTube channel, and then we're going to be using this over the next 3 years, and you'll definitely use it as a teacher. So you can see here there's really good use of green screen from the university sessions. They've created posters. What they're doing well is they're obviously relating ideas to academic sources. So again, it is like a normal essay that you'd support with academic sources. You'll find these academic sources obviously in our lectures, in our seminars, the reading list, but obviously you'll have more marks if you read outside of those. So you can see here again, relating to show engagement, to show that you're using some of the tools that we've shown you in sessions. You've got an About Me using the Clips app. Again, it's really well structured. You think about academic tone, there's a good flow to it. There's buttons there which take you to links when we did stop motion animation. We've got pictures from when the children came in for the sessions. And then obviously at the end of that, there's a reference list so we can clearly try and find the references that you've used. You've got then blog post 2, and then it's really clear what the title is. Again, an introduction, videos, literature to support, clear structure, videos there, quotes. So this is definitely a first. You can see here there's pictures to show that they've engaged with the session, and they've got a conclusion and a reference list. So there's a really good example there. There's other examples you can look through. Now, it's up to you. You can choose from your suggested blog posts. I've done this to show you, just to give you an idea of getting started. I think the hardest part of most assessments is just getting started. So I've chosen how can digital competence, so this is a digital competence blog. So how can teachers use technology effectively in the primary classroom? So obviously we start with an introduction. You usually write the introduction last. The introduction is a signpost to the reader exactly what will follow in the main body. So obviously within this, you've got the freedom to talk about your own observations, maybe on placement. Think about answering the question. A lot of people last year didn't think about, we're asking you, how can teachers actually use technology effectively in the primary classroom? We've talked about AI. Now, there's definitely some really good examples of how AI can, for example, personalize learning for children. We've also talked about maybe how technology is used in ALN settings, so additional learning settings to help children with maybe speech impediments or visually impaired. The technology really helps them to learn. It helps, and we talked about in sessions about engagement. Children are using all this technology outside of school, and in a lot of places, in a lot of settings, they're just not been able to use technology. So that engagement has a bit of an impact. You could talk about university sessions. Obviously, we've done stop motion animation, we've done green screens. You could talk about, don't just describe, because obviously I was in the session. Talk about, how could we use green screens in the primary setting? How could we use stop motion animation? Is it just in literature? Is it just in expressive arts? Could you do it maybe in a science lesson to make it truly cross-curricular? So then they are using it effectively. We want to see in your blogs, we definitely need to see you using the curriculum for Wales. So we want to see some cross-curricular links. So you'd go to the curriculum for Wales, you'd have a look, for example, at the DCF, the Digital Competency Framework, and you'd copy and paste some of the expectations from the curriculum. You obviously need to include and support your ideas with academic sources, which you'll get from the reading list, our lectures, our seminars, and you'll need to do your own reading. You definitely need some multimedia, so whether that's AI images, whether it's posters you've created, whether it's on TikTok, the more varied that you use, obviously the more access to marks you're going to get. Think about providing a balance as well, because I've asked, how can teachers use technology effectively? You could talk about how a teacher's not using technology effectively. Now, this isn't just an opportunity for you to just slate practice that you've seen. Definitely don't name any teachers that you've seen or any schools, but you could talk about maybe even in some of the university sessions, maybe some of the things that maybe went wrong that you tried, especially when you're working with children. Think about, for example, we gave the example of some of the students that I saw using technology, just using maths games, for example. So the teacher just says, right, you can all go and play cool maths games. How do you as a teacher know that they're actually on cool maths games when the reality is they're probably just on Roblox? How do we know that it's matched to their actual challenge? So a lot of the time, just saying go on cool maths games doesn't actually mean that they're going to be learning anything. So it's really important to think about and discuss technology is not just a silver bullet. Just because you're using technology doesn't actually mean that children are learning. So you've got a few paragraphs there. You start to formulate a bit of a question, a bit of an answer to the question. Don't forget to actually answer the question. So when it comes to the conclusion, you've got a summary of what you've discussed. Don't bring anything new into the summary, which is your conclusion, and try and answer the question. That's really good practice. As you go into year 2, you've been asked a question. A lot of people will go off and talk about all these relevant things, but then they forgot to answer the actual question. So how can teachers use technology effectively in the primary classroom? Don't forget to answer that within your conclusion. You then make sure that you add a reference list. So it's just giving you a bit of a guide of how you could answer this. And again, students last year had their Adobe Express open and they started to populate it with video, stop motion animation, a day in the life on placement, all things being populated with multimedia just helped chip away as you get closer to the deadline. So there's some ideas of how you can tackle this blog. If you need any help, advice, obviously ask your tutor in sessions. All the information that you need, as I mentioned, is on the assessment page. You can also re-watch the lecture for the first lecture where I go through all the expectations. Good luck, and we look forward to you soon.